second part of the video, we are going to be focusing on the installation and the setup. Right now, I'm going to open my SAMP. Over here, I have my SAMP. Sorry, my commander, not actually my SAMP. So guys, once more again, before you begin anything, make sure you have your SAMP installed, and also for this SAMP, you make sure you start your Apache and your mysql database. And for here, we are going to create a table, but I'm not going to cover the creation of the table. I will have to upload this for you on the GitHub repo so that you can have access to all the setup I did over here. Then once this is done, we'll continue. Let me just wait for some couple of seconds. So right now we have our installation done. So one thing I'm going to do is open this project folder on my Visual Studio Code, which I already did that, and I'm going to be doing some configuration. So if you find it difficult, just check my channel on how to set up a React Native project. It's going to help you. So I'm going to do this without much delay. So for this one, I'm going to just paste some lines of code here. Just get rid of this. And, so guys, I won't cover this again because it's on my channel actually. So I'm not going to cover that again. In my main folder, I'm going to create an assets folder. Then I'm going to move my fonts folder inside there. So my fonts folder, I'm going to make available these fonts for you guys on my GitHub repo. These are the fonts that I will be making use of. Now, lastly, I have to come back to the folder project, and I'm going to paste this down. So let's just allow that to finish. Now this is done bundling. So right now I'm going to be installing some couple dependencies that we need. First off, we are going to be installing our socket, because right now you can see that for us to get a message emitted on our Android app, we will be working with socket. So I'm going to be installing socket, a specific version actually. So socket.io client. I'm going to be installing at, sorry, I use at here. I'm going to be installing 2.1.1. So let's just wait for that. Then we can install other couple dependencies. So it's not going to waste time. So guys, don't forget to hit the like button and also the subscribe button, because it takes you a couple of times and a couple of hours to even build something that you can compile and share for free. And right now we are going to also be installing some other dependencies. So we need our Axios. We need our React Native community assigned storage. Sorry, I spelled things wrong. Also, we need our Redux tongue. We also need our React Redux tongue. Oh, sorry. We also need our UUID for random user ID generation. What else do we need? We also need our native base for the UI design, and also React Native vector icons. Lastly, we also need our, not lastly, sorry, I think second to the last, we also need our React Native router Flux. We also need React Native elements. So we may or may not use the React Native elements. So let's just allow this to finish, then we can continue. And that's done. So our dependencies are ready. Now the next thing we are going to do is to create some couple of routes. So I'm going to, over in our index.js file, I'm going to be creating some couple of routes. Sorry guys, I'm going to be making some couple configuration for our Redux, but not actually now. Like I say, we have to create some couple of routes. So here I'm going to create a source folder. Now in the source folder, we are going to create an app.js file. So in our app.js file, we are going to use a short command to create our React classes. So I'm going to be using class-based components. Export default app. Now, there's nothing much we're going to do here except for the fact that we may actually, okay, there's nothing much, but in our source folder, we are going to create a folder called scenes. Now, in the scenes, we are going to create a loading scene. So inside the loading scene is where we'll be making our routes configuration. So first off, I have to import some couple of things here. I have to import the view text from React Native. And secondly, I will import the router and the scene from React, sorry for the spelling, native router Flux. Now, inside our return statement, just have to get rid of the div, and we have to bring in the router. The router is going to have some couple things inside it, like the scenes. So we're going to have a root router hiding it, surrounding it. Then we have to hide the navbar, set the value to true. And inside the scenes, we can now bring in our other scenes like the authentication scene and also the chat room scenes. So first off, we have to create these components before we continue. So for the auth, I'm just going to create an index.js file. Likewise also for the chat room so that we can import them directly. Then inside here, whenever the application loads, the first thing we need is the animate scene. So I'm going to import animate scene from animate scene and comment this out. I'm going to close that. Set the component animate scene. We have to set the key to loading. The key is just like the route name. Set initial to true. We also have to hide the navbar. So guys, forgive me for using auto recommendations because I want this video to be fast. I don't want it to be choked. Secondly, we have to import our auth scene and also our chat room scene. So we have to import auth from. And lastly, we have to import, not lastly actually, we have to import the chat room. From chat room. We also have to import the login from auth/login. So don't worry, we are going to create these files from auth/register. So these things are not yet created. So that's what we're going to do now. Inside our auth scene, inside our auth folder, we are going to create two new files, the register and the login. So over here, I'm going to create a file called login. So I'm going to create a login.js file. I'm going to use the rcc command to bring this out. Take it out. Just type this with login scene. So I'll save that. I'll just have to copy exactly this and come over there, also create register.js file. Just have to rename this to register. So I will save this and change it to register. So guys, forgive me for the noises. Uh, so in our configuration file, we are in the loading scene. So in the loading scene, we are still going to create some routes. So over here, the scene, we have to make use of the components. Let's say for the login, we have to give it a key of login. We have to hide the navbar, set that value to true. We also have to copy this down. Let's copy one more down. So let's change this to register. This one we also have the hide the navbar and change this to register. And now the next one is the chat room. We also have to change this to chat room component, and lastly, that is the auth. I have to change that to auth. Also hide the navigation bar and give it a key of auth. So that is it for our routes. So we are done with reality router Flux, and we can now close the loading scene. So if you check from the loading scene, whenever the app opens, it's going to bring in the animate scene as we are going to set the key to loading. So, and the initial is set to true. That makes it mandatory that it's going to always use the loading scene, the animate scene. So back into the animate scene. So all we just have to do here is to type down the command ROCC, and let's import from React. You have the view and the text. Let's import the view and the text over here, and now let's write it animating. So we've done a lot of things, guys. So it's now time for us to run our applications. But before that, let's make sure that every other route have the configurations inside of it. I'm just going to copy that for the auth. I'm just going to paste this, change this to auth, and change this also to the auth scene. I'm going to copy this also. For this one, the chat room, paste it, change this to chat room or chat scene, and change it to chat room. So let me close all these scenes, make sure that everything is inside of it. Sorry, let me save this. So the loading scene loads, and it's going to bring us our animate scene, and that is it for now. And now guys, let's try to run our applications. So we have to type in React Native, run Android. So let's hit enter. So it's going to definitely remove this one and install our new application for us. So guys, let's just wait for some couple of seconds before we continue. So we can see our app is being loaded. So right now our app is loaded, and we can see actually at the animating scene. So all I have to do is to come over here, and we have to change the directory of the app file. So I'm going to change this to the source folder, then the app file. Then I'll save that, and it's going to refresh that for us. So anytime you want to refresh and it's kind of slow, just maximize this, and it's going to do it for you fast. So we are having an error. Let me kind of check what's the errors. Of course, one more thing, guys, we didn't install the dependencies of our router navigation. So it's very, very simple. Just head over here, go to readnavigation.org, head over to readnavigation.org, just come to the reading guides, come down over here, and I copy exactly what you see here. So we have to terminate our app, and I install that. So let's just wait for this to finish, then we continue. So after that, you can see that our app is back and running. All I just did was to install the dependencies I told you about, delete the application from the emulator, and reinstall the application. So right now, let's start with the animation scene. Let's start with the design, and as well as the images that we need. I also brought them inside here, all the images that we need. I'll make this available in my GitHub repo. So I'm going to close other things. So in the animation scene, we are going to be using our animated from React Native because we have to make some animation. Now, over here, we have to create some cool animations. Before we do that, we have to use the constructor method. So I have to remove this from the above. I have to bring in our constructor, passing our props, called the super props. Why I actually do this is because we can actually make an event in the app, and then we can pass it as a prop along our routes, then we can have access to it. So as we move on in this series, you're going to understand. So we have to create a state, and inside our state, we have to create the logo and name. It's going to be a new animated value 0. We also have to create a landing name, new animated value 0. Now, lastly, our spinner. For the spinner icon, also have to give it a value of 0. And inside our return before our return method, we have to actually bring in a component did mounts. So guys, I may be a bit fast because I don't want the videos to exceed more than 30 minutes. So I want to really achieve a lot within 30 minutes. So over here, we have to use the structuring and bring some things from our state. From our state, we have to bring in the logo and name, the landing and name, and the else spinner. So we can now use animated or parallel because we want the animation to be parallel, which will accept an array of animations. So it's going to be animated. The first one we are going to animate is the logo. So we want the logo to have a bouncing effect. So for that one, we are going to use the spring. And we have to specify the name of the animation. So we'll give it a name. Now we pass a value, an object value. So we give it to value 1. It's going to start from 0 to 1. And now we need the tension to be around 10. Give it a friction for it to feel as if it's being stiff. Give it a friction of 1 or 2. And lastly, we have to give it a duration of, let's give it a 700 milliseconds. The second one is, and now once that is done, we just have to start it. So the second one is going to be animated parallel. Sorry, the timing, not parallel, because parallel is the housing of all the animation. This one is just going to be the landing anime, and yeah, for the landing image. And now we have to just give it a value of 1, duration of 900 milliseconds. So once this is done, we can now bring in our spinner. So it's going to give us callback with start function, and in the start we have to call back our spin animation. So let me bring this down. So it's going to give us animated dot. We are going to use the spring because we want the loading icon to bounce. So we have to give it a value of 1 and also give it a tension of 10, give it a duration of 3000 because you want it to bounce in the space of 3000, that's milliseconds, that's 3 seconds. Then it's going to take us to our out scene once it's done. So when this is done, we have to make sure we start everything. And so that is it for now. Then we can now bring in our images at the top. So the above here, we have to bring in our images. My scrolling is not working because my system is being overused. So I have to import images. So I'm going to do some comments over here at images. We have to import our logo from. So we have to go over to images logo.png. We have to import landing from images landing.png. So down here, inside our return, there are some couple of things we also have to bring in from our native base, which I forgot earlier. So after this, we have to import some things from native base, container, the content, the text. We also have to bring in the view and the spinner. So I have to get rid of text and view from this place actually. And what I will just bring in here is the style sheet, and also the image for viewing our images. Then down at the return, we have to also use the structuring to have access to our params in our this.state. So over there, remember that we created our logo and name, and likewise we created a landing and name. Finally, we also created a spinner and name also. So inside our return, we are now going to be working on the designing part of this. So if you guys can remember earlier, I imported some things like container and content from the top. So I'm going to clear this totally out. So we'll wrap everything in a container and we'll give it a style. So guys, as I'm moving, I'm going to be doing this without delay. So I have to export this fast. Export animate scene, not animated. Export default animated, and I'm going to create a styles of style sheets dot create. I'm going to accept an object. So let me make sure that this is correct. Okay. So for this one, we are going to have a style of styles dot container, and we are going to have a content with the same style. No, style of content, not the same style. Then we have to use our animation values, animated dot view. So first off, before we begin our animation, I think I have to make sure I bring the images first. So the first one is the logo and name, which is at the top. So let's save this for now and see what we have. So my system is kind of having an overload. That is why we are experiencing this. So let's just wait for it. So I made a mistake down here. I didn't spell this correctly. So it's supposed to be stylesheet.create. So let's save that again and see. I think I have to get rid of the auto reload feature so that we can do this manually to avoid clashes. So let's just do this once and let it load. So we have the vendor on our screen. So let me do this once more again. So we can see the effect. There's a smooth effect that is going to bring in right now, which is now actually working. So for us to make use of our animation, under animated of view, we have to provide a style prop. And in our style prop, we are going to be using an array of styles. So the first one is the normal way of styling. So we are going to give it opacity of the name of the anime. So if you can remember, we brought it in with the structuring at the top here. So over here, we brought it in. And we are going to give it a top value of logo anime dot interpolate. Sorry for that, guys. So we're going to give it an input range, also an output range. So even if I save this now and still enable my live reload, we are not going to see anything because we've not really started our animation. Okay, we may see, yeah, because the opacity is from 0 to 1. So definitely we are going to see something. So this is an array, not just an empty space. So let me do this again. So for the input range, it's telling us that I must have at least 2 elements. As we go from 0 to 1, we want it to bounce from 1 to 0. So what it means that as we are coming from the value of 0 to 1, it's going to have a bouncing effect. So which does not take much time because remember that we use 700 milliseconds over here. So that's why it doesn't take much time. You may not actually see it, but let's kind of increase the seconds to like 12 seconds or 7 seconds. And let's see what will happen right now. Oh, it's not actually giving me what I want. But never mind, this is not what we are focusing on right now. But you can have an idea of how we can do a simple animation. So we also want to use the same thing, want to give it a shake effect. So for that one, we just have to give it an input range, also an output range. So as it's going from 0 to 1, it's going to be shaking from -10 to 0. So it's going to be bouncing and having a shaking effect. Lastly, we are also going to give it a normal style, which is from here, we just have to put a comma here, give it styles dot logo top. So the second one is for the landing, not much. So I'm just going to type this fast because we're already nearing 30 minutes. So animated of view. So we are going to give a style prop of an array with a normal CSS of opacity of, remember we have it as landing anime. And finally, we also have to spread in our styles.landing. So that is it for this. For the image, we also have to give an image or with a source of landing. Remember that we imported the image earlier. We can close that. And, then lastly, for the loading spinner is going to be coming from the bottom part of the Android view. And now we have to give a prop style. Let's give it a normal size of opacity of our spinner. Let's give it a bottom of L spinner dot interpolate. So it's going to come from an input range of 0 to 1. We want it to have an output range of -20 to 0. So it can come from the downside of this. So let me bring that up. Let me bring it up a bit. And lastly, we have to bring in our spinner, which we imported from our, if you can remember, from our native base. And I'll give it a color of 29EFA0. So that is it. Let's save this and see what will happen. So let's give it a normal reload. So guys, you can see that we have some smooth effects that just occurred right now. So let me try to reload that again so that you guys can see it one more time. So you can see that the logo have a bouncing effect from top to down and left to right. Why this will gradually appear, why this will come from the bottom. So let's use the remaining 4 minutes to definitely type down our CSS. So for the container, it's going to have a flex of 1 to take up the whole width, have a position of relative. We also have to give it a background color of pure white. Then for the content, it's still going to take up the whole width with a flex of 1 and a width of 100%. And for the logo top, we have to give a margin bottom to push the landing image down a bit. A margin bottom of 20, give a margin top for it to come down a bit, not to be at the top of 100 up. A margin top of let's say 50, or let me just use 65, so that it can. This is not going to cover it because of this design of my emulator. Don't really like this. Let me bring this down. And so for the logo top, we also have to align the items to center. And for the landing itself, we have to give it a margin top of 55. Then we have to align the items to center. That's it for this. And for the spinner, we just have to give it a margin top of 50 and align the items to center. So let's save this and see what will happen right now. So you can see that everything went smoothly. The logo is just going to slightly appear from the top to down effect, and immediately the landing image is going to proceed with also the loading spinner coming from the bottom. So watch carefully now. You're going to see how it's going to react. So seeing that, so that's how it is going to be happening. The effect may not really be cool because of my screen type. So guys, the way you can compliment me is to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you for watching this video. On my next video, we are going to discuss more things on this app. So guys, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button. Thank you very much.